Hello, I'm Jacob Fairmont. Today I'm going to discuss what are the new changes that need to happen in terms of the Industrial Revolution, in terms of hardware technology, software technology, entertainment landscapes, new developments, new innovations in terms of hardware and software and practical media applications, and not applications in the traditional sense of the word, but what is it going to take in terms of innovation to enable and to allow for the next generation of information resources and accessibility to possibilities, opportunities, information resources at a statewide level? I have come up with a configuration is specific to the state of Tennessee. Eventually, this could be a solution for the entire country, but I won't go there. Think about the implications. A little hardware box, and I know it's not perfect, but think about it. A hardware box that goes underneath the TV set. And situated underneath the TV set, it could create a paradigm, an ecosystem of interlinked Tennessee resources that, with original proprietary remote control, could enable a state based ecosystem, hardware based facility where people would be interconnected, have more possibilities, have more opportunities, and have more programming relevant to the Tennessee ecosystem than ever before. We think about this phrase. It's called what? Media fragmentation. The smartphone's different from the movie theaters. The movie theater is different from the DVDs. The DVD is different from the applications. The application's different from the streaming. Well, via this hardware box, Onvoi, my company, Onvoi Technology, and by the way, it's supposed to be the state flag, armed forces in the back, the state flag as the base, and then for more marketability purposes, the university system. But there's a lot more that we can do with it. First of all, it has to do with safety and security. If you install a hardware box, and I've been a victim of a Cat 5 hurricane, okay, in a different state, where the lights don't work, the electricity doesn't work, and there's no meaningful information to guide you in the event of a weather emergency. Well, this box would fix it. For the first time in industrial history, the states, and particularly the state of Tennessee, would have a hardware box that could fix, from a communications standpoint, all of their problems in terms of logistics and in terms of infrastructure, hardware. How do we get our message out to the people? It could be in terms of dire necessity, and in terms of vital importance, and in terms of everyday information that is practical and necessary. It could be up to the minute weather coverage in all three regions of Tennessee. They install easily the hardware box underneath the TV set, audiovisual cables, as opposed to coaxial, or as opposed to fiber optic cable system. They install the hardware box with simple RCA or AV cables, and that programs to the TV set. And then the power supply is connected to the wall, to the electric charge on the wall. So great. If something goes wrong, it can be unplugged, and it's got a remote battery inside with a practical charge that could last 2, 3, 4 weeks. and the box is still powered. Now, that's worst case scenario. It's also about more practical things. How can Tennessee residents be more genuinely informed, meaningfully informed, up to the minute weather notifications in all three regions? And for the first time, a state would have access to all the local alphabet network affiliates in terms of ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox. The local affiliates could directly transmit programming content remotely. They could program the content to the components of this electronic hardware box. Call it a Tennessee box. You put it underneath a TV set and you install it. And then all three regions, all 7 million Tennessee residents, would have a genuine portal where they would get up to the minute weather information, sports information, entertainment information, so that the state is better interconnected and networked than ever before. It could have implications as A, lucrative, B, perfunctory in terms of defense and security, but more, what's the lucrative part of it? If we develop this particular streaming hardware-based infrastructure, where we wouldn't be reliant on negotiations with TV set manufacturers, and we wouldn't be passé in terms of let's hope for the next entity to create an antenna on the TV that can give us our local affiliates back. And it wouldn't be coaxial cable, and it wouldn't be fiber optics cable, where cable networks would introduce what they always introduced. But rather, it could be ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Tennessee-based, programming what they are doing on a daily basis onto the electronics hardware box underneath the TV set that's easily installed through audio-visual cables and a basic power supply. And then we get the remote control to match. And it's just 2 buttons and a directional pad on the side. It's super simple. Now, what kind of opportunities would it create? And this could be a microcosm, an opportunity for the state of Tennessee to prosper more than ever before. But eventually it could be a model that all 50 states implement to keep their populaces informed and to keep them moving in the right direction. So it comes down to this. Movie theaters. What movie is playing what film at what time? From a capitalist angle, a profitability angle, there's an interconnected network digitally that through streaming content programming, it's programmed into the box so that people know what movie to choose at what particular theater, whether that theater is interactive or not, whether that viewing is interactive or not. See my other videos about the interactive revolution and the simple hardware revolution, which I'm doing my best to try to implement to improve consumers' lives and everyday people's lives. But it's also, what else? University systems. University of Tennessee, University of Memphis, Middle Tennessee, whether it be Board of Regents, whether it be Board of Trustees, we have implications where, look, many Saturdays, most people don't have access to the University of Tennessee football game. It's just reality because of the contracting and the negotiating and because of the fragmentation of the media outlets and the media conduits. So that could be a simple thing where it wouldn't be mutually exclusive. They can still watch the University of Tennessee football game on ESPN2 or ESPN1 or on ABC National. But when it comes to the everyday Saturday games, then guess what? Plug in the Tennessee box and we'll have a direct live feed. And it's that simple and it's that practical, and that would promote education. And same thing with basketball games, and same thing with some of the state university systems that are not UT, but that will have other advantages that have not nearly as many media advantages as far as the national landscape, as far as the big picture landscape, but they still have their content programming to offer. And the beauty of this hardware box is the internal components, the semiconductors. And they're programmed inside the box, and it can literally be individualized programming, box by box by box by box. The ideal goal would be for all 7 million Tennessee residents to own one. And the technology model that we're implementing is cost-effective and affordable and easy to install. And it could interconnect all 7 million Tennessee residents so that educational opportunities, educational resources, I would even say job opportunities, work, employment opportunities could be a viable reality. So long as we have digital feeds implemented subtly to say it's not the end of the world if you don't get a job, but rather it's kind of like the newspapers, right? Once upon a time, we used to have newspapers with a lot of circulation. They would be delivered to mailboxes, they would be delivered to front doors, on everyday steps, local, regional, national newspapers, and they lost the circulation base over the course of time. And what was a feature that was implemented in the newspaper, the print circulation? It was the jobs wanted, the jobs exchange. So if somebody was looking for a job, they could read a newspaper and they could say, well, this one fits my needs. This one seems smart and practical based on what I've done and what I've learned. Well, the Tennessee hardware box that would be situated underneath the television set, the state flag, there is the base, the university system, there at the top, armed forces, Tennessee militia, there in the back. And we could implement an ecosystem where in an aggregated fashion, we could take great care of all 7 million residents. And it would be the first time it was ever done in industrial history. The affiliates of the alphabet networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, what is their reach right now in terms of eyeballs, in terms of ratings, in terms of viewership? It's not as optimal as it should be. It's not as ideal as it should be. Well, this could correct it. Practical things like minute by minute weather coverage in all 3 regions of Tennessee. This electronics box could fix it. They'll know when it's going to rain on Tuesday, or whether they can go shopping on Sunday, or whether the rain will interfere with the shopping experience or the work experience. They'll know what private live event performances taking place in the state of Tennessee. And here's another lucrative example of it. Nissan Stadium in Nashville, the home of the Tennessee Titans. Well, first of all, I've said in another video, I think I could bring the Super Bowl to Nashville. We could host it. But on an ancillary note, more practically, how many concerts do they host there? And what exactly has been the revenue component to those concerts and other events, live performance events? Well, if we telestream them directly to a Tennessee box that would be easily installed underneath the TV set, then 7 million residents would be tuned in to what is happening statewide. So there's different functions to the electronics hardware box. It's A, safety and security. It's about storm monitoring. It's about knowing what the weather is at all times. It's about interconnecting the local cable channel affiliates. And it's no longer about having an antenna on the screen that gives you ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. Rather, we have had to innovate new protocols, initiatives, new implementation of new hardware solutions to kind of outsmart a lot of the trends that have been happening in the recent past. A lot of us have become disenfranchised or dissatisfied with news content, whether it be on the smartphone, whether it be on cable TV, whether it be on any medium or platform. Well, they're still going to do what they're going to do, and that's great. And the Tennessee box would never overthrow what's already in place, but it would supplement it very nicely. And it would give people a cost-effective and affordable and easy to install option through new and innovative technology approaches. And we would be the first state to do it. No one else has done it in industrial history. It would be a new approach that would allow, as a supplement to the cable channels and the World Wide Web and everything else, this would be a little box that would connect you, interconnect you in terms of information, resources, and opportunities. It would interconnect you with all 7 million residents. And let's think about some more important issues. Let's say, hypothetically, if something were to occur, and not even if it's like a bad moment, but it's something that can always be ongoing improvement, a culture of ongoing improvement, ongoing effort, and fixing and resolving problems. What happens when a state government, the executive department of the state of Tennessee, has to communicate directly with all residents? It's so important during good times and bad. Well, a little Tennessee hardware box underneath the TV set could allow for the governor, the lieutenant governor, the entire executive team to actually relay, to direct their message to Tennessee residents without being needlessly reliant on other networks that focus too big in scope. They wanted to cover the whole country. They wanted to cover the whole world. Well, when it came to practical data, will it rain tomorrow? Will there be a hurricane? Will there be a tornado? That's where the regionalism is super important. And it's about vital security and safety. And it's also about, whether in good times or in bad, about state government having a direct portal where they can directly inform state residents. No one has ever done this. So I think, wouldn't it be great if one day we heard the governor of Tennessee say, I'm doing an economic initiative, and this is what I'm trying to do economically for the state. Well, then via the hardware box that's easily installed and cost effective, and I could get into the whole retail strategy about where it would be purchased and how much it would cost if it were to be manufactured. We have a new economic initiative. Well, guess what? At the very least, All 7 million residents in the state of Tennessee in all three regions could tune in to the economic speech. And they could say, here's practical step 1, practical step 2, practical step 3, in order to gain or obtain a more practical economic opportunity in my everyday life. So it serves a government function, but it's not just a government box. It's about accepting and creating new innovative platforms. And I've said it in other videos, it's about creating a new simple hardware revolution. Now here's the remote control. It would be this simple. 2 buttons, directional pad on the side, up, down, left, right, and they select what they need to select. But it is a vehicle, a method, a conduit, a medium, where technologically, because of new state-of-the-art advancements, we could facilitate a portal underneath a TV set where all Tennessee residents would have information and resource access and be better interconnected to not just local affiliates of the alphabet networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox. All that could be remotely programmed because of the proprietary technology that we're building inside the box. So there's severe, and it's good news. We're no longer reliant on just the smartphone. We're no longer reliant just on cable. But for the first time in global history, in American history, we would have an electronics hardware box that would interconnect the state in terms of crucial government resources, in terms of the University of Tennessee and the Board of Regents, the Public Board of Regents, the other universities in the state, their content, their broadcasting, to facilitate and promote education, job acquisition, economic prosperity. But also, it could just be a lot of fun. Local movie time at a movie theater, it could be there. We have so many original content creators, creative people, creative outlets in Tennessee. Live events at big Tennessee state-based stadiums, from concerts to assembly halls, symphonies, orchestras. It could all be a very simple, cost-effective hardware box that would supplement what's already out there. Look, the saddest part we have is that we have a generation, a populace, that has kind of grown sick of what's already been out there. A lot of the media content, entertainment content, news content, it's not as trusted as it should be. It's not as viewed as it should be. Well, with these leaps and bounds in terms of innovation, the Tennessee hardware box and all the crucial proprietary innovative components within the box could be programmed remotely and strategically to create a new aggregated ecosystem of Tennessee-based content and programming that would genuinely inform all 7 million residents, interconnect all 7 million residents, and it would be a lot of fun, and it would also be serious in terms of, God forbid, worst case scenario, if there's a storm, we're prepared. I'll even add the last part. I'm working on a technology angle where if the audio-visual cables are in place, connected to the TV, if the power supply were to be unplugged in the event of a storm, windstorm, thunderstorm, electrical power outage, what have you, you unplug the power supply it would have its own battery charge that's built in. So that for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, it would still be operable. Now think about serious things like 911 systems, ambulance, police, fire. These are all the vital, important, necessary things that Tennessee infrastructure has always had to think about. And what's the next step? It takes innovation leaps and bounds. It takes IQ and tech savviness to create new solutions. Now, the beauty of the box and the correct approach to the box is safety and security and what's integral and necessary, while also enhancing the everyday experiences, the practicality of everyday human experiences for all 7 million statewide residents. And that means it's fun, movies and concerts and university programming, university football games, university basketball games. There could even be an element of church services. Implement the different churches to have different functions. And it could even be outside sources in terms of new monetary things that we could do to make it financially viable. But at its base, the most core important function is to say we need a safe, secure republic in terms of the state of Tennessee. And if all the media and all the news has become so global or so national that we can't even count on meaningful information as far as our borders, then guess what? That's something that we need to fix. That's something that we need to improve. And it could bolster the bottom lines of the alphabet network affiliates that are in place in terms of cable channels. We can implement potentially a radio aspect to it, but that's later. Don't worry about that. But at the end of the day, it would be a cost-effective, affordable, easy to install hardware box where you install it with 3 cables, audio-visual cables underneath the TV set. It could be purchased Amazon, Walmart, any major retailer. Cost-effective. It wouldn't step on the toes of any other big media content provider. And yet it would supplement the offerings that are already out there. And for the first time in industrial history, we would create an economic platform, ecosystem, that would make a state smarter, safer, more economically prosperous, more interconnected in terms of information resources, and so on and so forth. I'm Jacob Fairmont. Thank you so much for listening. And on behalf of my company, Onvoi Technology, Onvoi Interactive, this is the physical prototype of the Tennessee box. And what's inside is the most important part. It's new streaming capabilities and it's new angles to telecommunications and public information and entertainment and telecommunications information. And our proprietary remote control, it's simple. How many times have we had remote controls for TVs? That there were 48 buttons and we only used 2 or 4 of them. Well, we're simplifying. Directional pad, 1 button, 2 buttons. And that's completely distinct from my interactive platform, which could make a lot of money for entertainment, giving consumers choice in the storytelling and the adventures. But this one could be a government private sector model that would truly change things for the better. I'm Jacob Fairmont on behalf of my company, Onvoi Technology. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, and God bless.